You set? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting for the evening of October 17th, 2016. Would you please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Board of Selectmen have just come out of a paperwork review. The first item on the agenda is to review and approve any items that are listed for consent. Under consent, we have the September 26, 2016 Board of Selectmen meetings, account payable manifest for October 4th, 2016, the amount of $120,567.29. For October 11th, 2016, in the amount of $61,838.56, and October 18th, 2016, in the amount of $47,006.67. We have payroll manifests in the amount of, for October 1st, $59,797.98. For October 8th, 2016, the amount of $34,404.52. And for October 20th, 2016, in the amount of $56,113.58. We have a tax clerk reconciliation statement for the month of September 2016, tax collector reconciliation statement for September 2016, and a timber tax warrant in the amount of $2,093.54. Are there any items that the board wishes to have removed from the consent agenda? Are there any items the board wishes to have placed onto the consent agenda? Hearing none, then, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Selectman Perry, second by Selectman Brunel. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries 3-0-0. We have two absences tonight. There's apparently, we have an incident, a fire department incident going on in town, so Selectman Bork is involved in that, and Selectman Lemire is absent with an excused absence. Are there any other items or other business items that the board wishes to have on the agenda tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on. Public input will be no earlier than 6:30. The first item for business we're going to discuss is NRPC draft of the 2016 to 2020 Statement of Strategy. And we have with us tonight Mr. Tim Roche.
Does everyone have a copy, or do you need a copy?
We have, there's one online.
I'll take one just
Have a few.
in case they record it. You won't have to send it to me.
Well, thanks for having me. So I've been director for a little over a year and a half now. I was here several months back just talking about, what we do and, checking in with you folks to introduce myself. Seems like every time an organization like this goes through a change in leadership, the board wants to do a strategic plan. So we agreed that it was a good idea this time, and we took it a little further than we have perhaps in the past and did a pretty robust process. So I just wanted to touch base with you on that. Tom and Troy both talked about it and thought it might be a nice idea for me to come by and talk you through what we have going on. So first phase of it was a whole lot of information gathering that started about a year ago. We did some online surveying with our staff and our commissioners. That led to a all-day retreat for our commissioners in November of 2015. That gained a huge amount of input and really set the direction of where we were going with this. And then we took that information, some internal work, did a SWOT analysis with strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis. We went around to a number of the boards of selectmen, including yourself, and incorporated that feedback. And then from there, really worked with our executive committee and staff to sort of shape that document that you have to the point where we were able to write a fairly complete draft at this point and bring it to our commissioners just last month in September for their first look. And a few of them thought that their towns would like to take a look at it. And so I'm going around now to try and make sure we cover as many towns that are interested. Hit the next slide. Really, it's pretty simple. This idea of what the sort of drives this whole thing is provide excellent service, right, to meet the needs of all the communities. And that, that's what I ask my staff to do and understand when they come to work, why they come to work, is to provide that service, to be the best RPC in the state and make sure that the communities are getting what they need. And it's why folks like Tom Young volunteer their time and others volunteer their time for NRPC, is to make sure that we're providing that service that you need. We do that, what we hope will happen is that there's a universal understanding of what NRPC is and the value and the services that it can provide. And I got to take this opportunity again to remind everyone that NRPC isn't me, it's not my staff. It's the commissioners that come together that really make the decisions to sort of shape where the region goes on those big issues that cross the municipal boundaries. I think that's probably one of the biggest misunderstandings, is that we're just sort of this bunch of bureaucrats that sit in a room with a political agenda of some direction, and that really isn't it. It really is the folks that come to the table and guide those regional issues, and that's important. So hopefully we can get that to be the outcome, that everyone understands that. So to do it, we came up with 3 critical requirements to sort of get to that key outcome. And first and foremost is having that diversified and sustainable funding. Everyone's facing the squeeze. We get $11,000 from the state as a regional planning commission, and that's it. We rely pretty heavily on other sources of fund, grant sources in particular. And I want to make sure that if we're going out for a grant, that it's not just to feed the machine, but it's to meet the needs of the communities, Litchfield and others. I think it was last month, was it Jason Brennan was in? Mm-hmm. Great presentation. I saw the YouTube video of that on, what the folks in the town would like to see. So what we're trying to do is sort of develop a internal electronic whiteboard that we call it in NRPC, to make sure that things like that things that Litchfield may want to pursue, get onto that list, so that if we're searching for grants for the region, we're hitting your needs. And so putting us and Jason together are probably a good thing to do. And I think, I'm not sure where you guys are going to go with that presentation, but it's on my radar, and certainly something we can talk about more. The other part, the second requirement, is to have the staff that can do the work, that can get those grants. I think you guys are particularly lucky to have Jen Sizz as the circuit rider in town. Phenomenal planner and really does a great job. And if I could have a staff full of Jens, we'd be in really great shape. But the staff is, phenomenal, and I want to make sure that we keep it that way. So we need to work on investing in that and training them and make sure that they can all provide that type of service to you. And the third requirement really is just communication. It's me coming out here. It's Tom talking to you, and anyone who you appoint as a commissioner, making sure that two-way communication is happening, so that we can pick up on what you need and what the town needs. I noticed on one of the things in Jason's presentation, there was a lot of talk of playgrounds and the desire for that. And we have a Parks and Playground grant right now that actually Jen Sizz is managing, to try and make sure that planning boards are better positioned to plan for those types of things, rather than trying to go back and retrofit them. But it's something else that we could talk more about. So once we got through the requirements, we sort of went back and those critical requirements, we went back and looked at that. How can we provide that excellent service as that driving principle? We did another SWOT analysis and identified a number of opportunities that came up through all of the input that we got for this process. And just quickly, the list down the left there is really improving the transportation planning process. There's an opportunity there that we can talk a little bit about. First thing that we heard over and over again was economic development, and we need to build our capacity as a planning commission so that we can provide those services, and we're working towards that. Energy came up with the pipeline, renewables, solar, things like that. And then marketing, making sure people understand who we are, what we do, investing in the staff, and then keeping on top of technology, and in particular our GIS, which is certainly the strongest amongst the planning commissions, and one of the stronger resources, I think, from a GIS perspective around the state. So We can talk, I have a couple other slides that just talk about the first two opportunity areas, so we could briefly talk about those if you want. Economic development, again, that was just building capacity in the staff and making sure that we can develop a program that supports communities. We're working with Wilton right now, which, I don't know if anyone's been out to Wilton on an evening like this, but the downtown pretty much closes up at 5 o'clock. There's not much going on. It has great potential. So we're trying to work with them to build some business opportunities out there. We have a grant through the community, the CDFA, Community Development Finance Authority, to raise some money through selling tax credits out in that area that will then in turn help us build capacity and work with Wilton to invest in their downtown, which is, I think, a good thing. And the other opportunity area that we identified as an early opportunity, next slide there, is improving the transportation planning process that we have. Right now, every 2 years, we go through this process with the state and the GASSET and developing projects for the 10-year plan. We have an opportunity here to ensure that the projects that the region sees as priorities get into the first 4 years of the 10-year plan, which is a departure from what has typically happened, where transportation planning projects, road improvements would end up being put into the 10-year plan somewhere at the discretion of the DOT. We're working with them through a federal requirement to make sure that our top priorities are programmed early on in the 10-year plan into that first 4 years, which will hopefully get things on the, pavement on the ground sooner and improvements done sooner than they have been in the past. So again, those are a couple areas that came out of this whole strategic planning effort, and there's others that we're going to be working on, but that's really what it is. It's really to help us and help me as the director guide the staff and set the direction for the agency, and wanted to make sure you're aware of what's going on. If there's questions, we can take them. If not, we can...
Questions from members of the board? One of the questions I have deals with the issue of trying to take a look at consolidating the communities, regional communities, the use of power, gas, stuff like that. I think NRPC, excuse me, had played some level of role in that, but I'm not sure if that's something that you're intending to continue going forward.
It is. That's part of, under that sort of energy and renewables item that I had in that slide. We do an electricity aggregation that you're part of, where we bring a number of communities together to essentially do a group purchase on electricity. Where the person that does that is working towards developing other opportunities, either gas, propane, oil, those types of other, and even solar, believe it or not. There's a number of programs, one called Solar Up or Solarize New Hampshire, that we can bring together communities together to get essentially a group purchase on solar installations at the residential level. So we're working in that direction as well.
You'd mentioned that you have a desire to try and look at, if I understood you correctly, alternative funding for NRPC. How would you propose to do that?
Yeah, it's tough because we are very grant driven. And one of the ways we could expand our opportunities would be through a 501c3, sort of a partner or sister organization to the Planning Commission. That would open up the opportunity to get grants through various foundations that NRPC, as it's currently structured, can't necessarily apply for. So there'd be some sort of partnership organization there. That's one way to do it. Other than that, we're still exploring options as to how we can, sort of get past this. The government funding is just cut; it's just not there. So we need to find other ways.
And now that you've put down your strategy statement, are you going to take and convert this into a list of measurable goals and objectives, that type of thing, or how do you plan on doing that?
Yeah, there's a short list online. I don't know if Tom, you may have it, but there is a short list online of as part of this document as an appendix that has a list of specifics that we're going to try to work towards. And set those performance targets if we can do that.
And you're going to work through that with, what, the executive committee?
Through the executive committee and the staff will be working on those. That'll sort of be their guide to how we move forward, try to hit some targets.
And is that something you're going to bring back to the communities?
We could certainly do a report card on that as to how it's going, sure.
Okay, great.
So.
Tom, you got questions? You're involved in this, I know.
We've been going through it for quite a while now, and I think all the bugs, or most of the bugs are taken out of it now, so it's like a good workable document.
Yeah, we're going to bring it back to the full set of commissioners in December, take all this input back, and it's at their discretion as to how they want to move forward. They could just sort of accept it as a guiding document or adopt it. I'm going to, we'll work through that at the December meeting. We want to make sure that if there's any issues out here, you have a chance to weigh in.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Next item on the agenda, we'll go to PFOA Waterline Extension Project Update.
I'll see you Wednesday night.
Troy, you want
Yeah, I just put that down here, just to have a quick discussion about some of the things that's just recently happened. I think everyone's aware, St. Cobain, Pennachuck Waterworks, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services have all come to an agreement to proceed forward with the Litchfield project. There is going to be an informational meeting next Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock at the high school to talk to residents more about, the plan is to have the town present sort of where we're at and what we've done in our process, to have the state present where they're at with some of the things that they've discussed throughout the summer. I think a lot of the residents are looking for some answers on about if they are required to connect to the water system. If they connect to the water system, can they still operate their wells for irrigation, washing cars? And I'm hopeful that the state will have answers regarding that. They'll, I'm not sure if it'll be the state or Pennachuck that will talk about the project starting. It'll be starting. We're receiving phone calls now. I think Jack received a phone call from one of the contractors today inquiring about applying for a trench permit. So we do anticipate that construction is going to start as soon as possible. So either the state or Pennachuck will be talking to the residents about the scope of work, how many homes they hope to get connected this fall and early part of winter. And then for those folks that unfortunately don't get connected, what will happen to them? How do they go through the winter? And so that will be discussed. And then the meeting will close out with Pennachuck Waterworks talking about how all the residents that are going to connect to the water system, there's certain requirements. They're going to become a customer for Pennachuck Waterworks. And there's going to be agreements that all the new customers will have to sign, just like, if you were to sign up for Eversource Energy for the first time, you need to sign contracts to state that you understand that you're going to be using the water and there'll be bills, and some homes are going to have, as I understand, a pressure reducing valve, and there's going to be a document that's required for the homeowner to sign an agreement on how they, that valve is not to be removed, and that document needs to be notarized. So they're going to talk about that, and once the meeting adjourns, they're going to have tables set up so all the residents can go to different tables and start discussing, reviewing the documents, seeing maybe they can sign up right then and there. That's the goal, try to get homeowners signed up as soon as possible. That's where I'm at right now.
So part of this is also the town will make a presentation in terms of where we've come from and where we are now in terms of any any discussions with St. Cobain's and that type of stuff. I've talked to Troy and asked if we could have town council there to answer some questions and also to present to the citizens of the town what can or cannot be done in terms of the town representing them, that type of stuff. Because it's gotta be clearly understood what the town's limits of authority are and, the limits of our abilities. But my intention would be that we present maybe 4 or 5 slides and try and go through what's happened, where have we gone, what have we tried to do, and what's been the results of that type of stuff. We discussed this at a prior meeting before that, and I think it makes sense now to try and do it. We need to have somebody present that. Are you, John, or Steve?
Wednesday? As you know, I'm away on business in Jersey, so I won't be here.
So that's the 25th, right? That's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tomorrow? No,
Next
next
week.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Yeah, again, I won't be here all next week.
Okay. I've asked Troy to put together a draft document that just puts a timeline together, and I was gonna throw some slides against it.
What time?
What is it, 7?
It's at
7 p.m.
That's the meeting, yeah. That's what's been posted.
It was announced, as part of the state announcement, Troy is going to send out a code red, probably, middle of the week?
Middle of the week, and they'll do a reminder towards the end.
Yeah, it went out on,
It went on the press release.
went out on a press release, went out on our Facebook page, went out on our town website, it went out on a bunch of different groups over the weekend. It's also posted as an event in Facebook, so I've been seeing on their calendar, so
Yeah.
it's there. I mean, it's everywhere. Which is good.
Okay. So if you can make it, please make it, and we need to let Kevin and Brent be aware of that. Okay, anything else on PFOA?
So we're gonna have our town engineer basically on site or a representative through the whole project, correct?
Yep.
Who's governing this project?
I'm not sure what you mean by governing. If you
Who's
mean
actually
who
in
issues the
charge of the project?
who's
Is it
in
the
charge,
state?
the general contractor is not the state. The general contractor would be Penachuk.
Well, whoever Penchuck hires, right?
No, Penachuk is the general contractor.
Okay.
The subcontractors would be the people who are doing the installing.
So Saint Gobain wanted to deal directly with Penachuk. So Penachuk has signed an agreement with Saint Gobain to be the project manager, the general contractor. So Penachuk will be managing all the subcontractors. And our town engineer will be on site. There's money that's been allocated, and we'll be doing a direct bill to Penachuk Waterworks to get reimbursed for those time and services.
He's been at all the meetings that we've had with
Yes.
Penchuck.
So they are going to be, I think he's actually got to hire an engineer to put an engineer onto this. Luke Karen does.
Right.
And, but there will be an engineer full-time here to make sure that the town's best interests, I'll call it, are looked after. And again, that's all being paid by, as part of the contract with the contractor through Saint Gobain. But that engineer will report to Lou, who will report to the town.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, Chief O'Brien, you're sitting there with some purpose in mind.
I'm gonna swear in the new fireman, sir.
You're gonna swear in the new firemen?
Yes,
Okay, well, that's on hold because they're at a fire.
yes, I know.
There-
Getting updated.
Is it changed from the last update?
No.
Smoke.
I heard it was a Griffin.
Is that Griffin, yeah?
It looks like there was, a fire at, in the boiler room. Small amount of fire damage to the floor, nothing structural.
Good.
And, that's what they are now.
Okay. So then, why don't we go on to the presidential election and state election polling hours. Polling hours should be between the hours of 7 and 7. That's what we've normally set, unless the board wants to change those.
How about like 12 to 1?
12 noon to 1 a.m.?
1 p.m.
Oh, okay.
You might have trouble with that.
Yeah, you could receive some feedback from that.
We couldn't process that much traffic in one hour.
So do we want to make a motion, 7 to 7?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion to second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 3-0-0.
So Frank, what about coverage?
Well, that's what I was going to get into next.
Okay.
That's a good segue. John,
I'm your straight man.
are you going to be here?
I am gonna be here. I'm taking the day off. I'll be there all day.
Okay, so now just for some reason, there was some app that was making it look like, November 1st was the actual election date. It's actually November 8th,
Right.
just to make sure everybody's aware. At Campbell High School. You're able to be there all day.
Yep.
I am up for election, so I will not be able to do a lot, but I could go in there and do some things like I did last time. As long as I'm not around the ballots, that's fine. Steve, yourself?
My ultimate goal would be to work in the morning, and I could be there all afternoon, but I can make my day open if I have to.
Okay,
So as soon as we get feedback from the other two.
So if you want to, we'll take feedback. So if you can kind of copy this down, John's there all day. I'll be there all day, but I can go in and out or whatever. And Steve says he can arrange a schedule.
You prefer the morning, so what time frame?
I prefer the afternoon.
Afternoon, okay.
Like, I could do from 1 till the end would be perfect for me.
Okay.
If it needs to be earlier, it can be earlier.
And for head count purposes, like I said, I'll be there all day. So if there's a question on how many selectmen we have present, you can count me in on that. Probably the only time I'll leave will be around noontime, maybe to go grab a bite to eat or something. And then if you can follow up with Kevin and Brent, find out what their schedule is. Usually Brent can do mornings, Kevin can do afternoons, but I'm not sure if that's changed this time.
And the schools, I'm assuming the school's been notified and that they're prepared to set up and tear down.
Well, John, you're a great straight person, so let's talk about that.
We should ask them the night before.
No, I did send an email out last week to make sure we didn't have any miscommunication for this election. And the feedback I got was that the school would like to have a meeting with me. We've scheduled a meeting tomorrow, 11 o'clock, to discuss the election. And I'm assuming we're talking about setup and breaking down, and so I'll keep you posted on what the discussion's all about.
Now, just for a review of past history, the school had volunteered, and we actually were paying the school for a while in terms of their breaking down and setting up and all that type of stuff. And then the school board motioned not to require that we pay that because it's basically taking it from one pocket, put in the other.
We
So
do
it
the same
just-
thing on our side too, so.
Right, and it just didn't make any sense. So what ended up happening is, that's the way it's been now for a bunch of years. So I'll be interested in hearing what the outcome is of the meeting at tomorrow.
I mean, the nice thing is their staff is pretty well versed in setting it up and tearing it down. I know there was some discussion about reorienting the room the last election. To be honest, I thought it worked out well. I don't know what'll work out as far as, but that's the moderator's call, not even the board. I mean, I don't think it should be the board's call, but.
No,
And
it's
the
not.
high school is closed, I've been told, so they did.
So parking
they did
won't be a
plan
problem.
To close high school, so parking and traffic flow won't be impacted.
I guess I would stress that let's not go backwards and make the volunteers tear down and put back up again, because that's, unfortunately, that stuff is falling apart, and those guys know how to put it back up and down better than we do, So hopefully that's not the direction we're taking. Being asked to.
We'll find out. Okay. 2016 tax rate and warrant status.
I was hoping that we were going to have a status. We were contacted by the DRA at the end of last week, We thought we were gonna be given a tax rate last Friday, but I guess everything's still pending on, not our school, but the State Department of Education. Just some revenue estimates, but otherwise, school department has all their information in, the town has all of our information in, and the rate could be set any day this week. And so, I just wanted to make sure the board knows when we get that rate, I'll let you know, and we're gonna wanna have you come in sometime this week and sign the warrant, so we can get the tax bills off to the printer and get them out in the mail.
Is there any delay right now that's gonna cause a problem?
Not now.
We have
Last year we had a delay, so
You've got a 30-day clock
the
there.
goal is obviously to get them in the mail, just prior to November first, so that they'll be due December first.
Okay. Questions?
Do we have another meeting next week?
The yes,
Actually, we'll be here Wednesday too.
you will.
Of this week?
That's right, yeah.
Well, we're here Wednesday for,
The, union hearing.
The grievance hearing, and then the 24th, we have a meeting. We didn't change that meeting on the
So
24th.
this
if we didn't have,
Wednesday.
if we didn't have the paperwork by Wednesday,
Yeah.
would it be the end of the world to wait till Monday?
Probably not. No, you're
As
right.
long as you get it by the 1st, I think
Yeah.
we're okay.
Yeah.
After the 1st, then you start now chewing up the month of December.
what time is that meeting, the meeting on Wednesday though? Did we set a time?
It's set at 7.
So it starts at 6.
Well,
Oh,
Wednesday
Wednesday?
with the.
I got
Union
it.
grievance, 6 o'clock. What do you,
We met 6 o'clock. Now, there's,
why, you have something different?
I'll make it work. I'll be here.
So I didn't even have it.
I
on
have
the
it in
calendar.
here
I
at
just knew it was
7.
No?
I'm supposed to close, but that's all right. I'll change it.
okay, but
So we'd like to be able to see if we could meet, now, people need to understand that we've been notified by the union that they do not plan to attend the hearing. There was some discussion that went, back and forth between myself and the union, membership, requesting the hearing be conducted in a non-public session. I consulted with our legal counsel. She was not able to find anything under the RSAs that would allow this hearing to be discussed in non-public, because it was not, the subject matter was not about any individual. It was more of just a class action, as they called it. And so we were notified by the union that apparently they do not plan on participating in the hearing, and would ask us to please forward our decision to them in accordance with the grievance procedure, and I guess they plan on moving forward to arbitration.
So, hence, anyways, the intention would be to try and have
God.
the intention would be to try and have a prior meeting, a prior discussion with our town council, which would occur at what, 5:30?
5:30.
Can you make 5:30?
Sure, why not?
How about 5?
At this point, I gotta change my schedule anyway, so what's the difference?
Okay. John?
Yeah, I can make it work.
Okay.
5:30?
Yep.
All right.
That should be enough time. Okay. It's beyond 6:30. Are there any members of the public who wish to discuss any items with the board? Don't look away. I see you looking over.
No, I'm just here to observe.
Okay, not a problem. You want, all set?
All set.
Okay, hearing none, then we'll move on or continue on. Excuse me. 2016 financial review, which is a year-to-date review of where we stand in terms of, oh, you got it up on the,
I got it up so we can, okay, we didn't have a lot of time to go over this at our last meeting, and I had not had a chance to consult with the police chief, which was one of the areas of real concern.
excuse me.
But we've gone through this budget. Karen White, the finance director, myself, met with Chief Brian. I've met with Public Works Director, Solid Waste. We feel that these numbers are pretty solid right now for the, where we're at, and just knowing what we know. But you can see that the first item, personnel administration, The reason that we're projecting that we'll have an unexpended balance of just over $30,000 is because that's the amount that we appropriated or changed some numbers within our budget to allocate towards the non-union wage implementation. So we didn't charge against that line. We charged all the wage increases against the individual salary lines throughout the budget. So those lines, you'll see those are showing an over expenditure.
Over or under expenditure?
In the individual salary lines, they would have gone over the
Okay.
actual budget. So I just wanted to point out that, that money, even though it looks like it's a positive, it really shown as a negative in the operating budget and salary lines. General government buildings, the $5,000, this would be directly related to our fuel savings. The town insurance, another big savings. I say savings, but because we're actually in the process of changing from a one-year policy, or changing from the July to June to a calendar year, we're only being charged for 6 months of insurance, whereas the default budget had planned on a 12-month policy. So that's why you have the $29,766. We're only paying for 6 months of insurance to transition us to a new policy starting January 1st. Police administration, this is the whole police department. Right now, again, these numbers can change in either direction as we get closer and closer to December. We're still dealing with some personnel changes, so we're making assumptions in that area. But right now, we're forecasting that we'd be over about $30,000 in the police department. Police support just recently brought on a full-time dispatcher. So based on our projections, it looks like we'll probably be turning in about $4,000.
Turning in or, oh, it's red, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
turning in. It's not a negative, so that should have been green.
yeah, it's fine.
That should be green?
Yeah.
Green good, red bad.
Yeah. Highway, we're pretty comfortable with this number, thinking that we're gonna have an unexpended balance of about $40,000. Jack has approached me about the possibility, as we get closer to the end of the budget, the possibility of purchasing a new salter. All of our sand salt spreaders are pretty old, and he has gathered some quotes, and I think the price range is around $15,000. So I just want to throw that out there, and if the timing's right, I may be approaching the board if we think the budget can afford it. This brings us a total estimated unexpended balance of about $67,000. And then you'll see down at the bottom, I've got some add-ons and some deletions. The police contract was a warrant article that we raised and appropriated $18,329 for the first year implementation of the union contract. One of the things in going through the review of our budgets and some other things that we discovered that $10,000 of the 457 match was actually accounted for in the 18. And as you know, that match is supposed to come from the special detail fund. So we did raise $18,329. However, we probably should have asked the residents for $8,329. So as of right now, I'm planning on just carrying the $8,329 as offsetting costs of implementing the union contract, and the other $10,000. Hopefully, we don't use that money, and that would just lapse and go back to the unassigned fund balance. I am also very hopeful that we'll get reimbursed for our PFOA expenditures to date, based on a meeting that Selectman Brunel and Selectman Lemire attended with myself. I think there was a positive indication that they would reimburse this amount. This was for direct costs related with hosting some of the informational meetings and distributing the water. We did that twice.
Have we gotten any further follow-up from them on whether they're on that reimbursement?
Not at this time. Also, health insurance holiday premium, we have
Just one
received
last question. How long has that been outstanding?
3 weeks maybe?
the PFOA.
I know we just, because that came up when we had a meeting with their council, right, and all that.
Right.
It's about 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
roughly.
But I have actually, at this point in time, I've not actually sent the invoice to St. Cobain.
Okay, let's,
So it's,
Oh, okay. I
I'm
thought
not
you
sure
were
what the
gonna-
board feels, but I'd like to get the invoice sent out.
I thought it was already sent. so
no,
I
it's not gone out. It is something I plan on getting out this week, so.
Okay,
They indicated once they got it, they would process it.
Yeah.
There was no objections at all.
Yeah,
It
they,
didn't seem
you know.
like- It didn't seem like anyway. I don't know if they knew the number.
They
but-
seem very positive about it, saying, yeah, so. Health insurance, holiday premium, this is, you've been through this before, a check that we're in receipt of, and we'll be applying this credit towards, the health insurance lines. So that brings, as we sit here today, an estimated unexpended balance of $88,803. With that being said, we just received an ambulance bill, and it's not for the uncollected debt, but it's our portion of the quarterly payments that we pay the town of Hudson. And there's a formula in our contract which is based on the number of calls, the percentage of calls that's used by the town of Litchfield, and a combination of our usage applied towards their operating budget. Well, on July 1st of this year, their operating budget increased. So when we just received an invoice, it looks like it's possible that we're going to be over by as much as $10,000 in the ambulance. So we budget
when you say
$40,000.
over budget,
Well, we budget $40,000 a year to pay for the service.
Right.
And it's, again, I just got the bill, we gotta take a look at it, but I have a feeling that we're probably gonna pay $50,000 for the service, which would put us over 10 grand.
okay? But the 40,000's considered already in your calculations, correct?
It's just 40 in this calculation.
So
That's
there's an
all.
additional
So
10.
I have not reflected an overage of, a possible 10,000. I need to talk to the town administrator and
You are the town administrator.
the town of Hudson's town administrator and
Okay.
find out
Well, Troy,
what-
you're,
if anything's changed.
It's in here.
yeah, it's in there, Troy.
Not for 50, is what it
Yeah,
said.
it's 61,000.
Did she change it?
It's 61,000 is what she's.
51.5 is what the default
Okay.
number is.
61.5 is in there, so
projection.
she's showing a $10,000 over. It's not red though.
Did we put it in?
Ambulance, 51.5, yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I didn't-
and
I
we
didn't
budget
realize we-
51.5, not 40, I guess.
Okay, I didn't realize she had put that in today, so,
Okay. So there is no issue then at this point. We already calculated
yeah,
that.
that's good.
I find that, something doesn't make sense to me on that.
Oh, what, the ambulance?
Why we had that in last year's budget, if it's a new bill.
We've always had ambulance in the budget.
I understand that, but what I'm talking about is the amounts. In other
Well,
words,
you're on one, we're on default, but, I think that number, that 40,000 has been the same number for a couple of years.
right, so
Well,
that's
here
why
it
I'm
says
asking, that's why I'm
51.5.
asking the question, why it's not 40, but it's 51.5. That's what I'm trying to understand.
And then it lists the projection at 61.5.
It's been 50.
So something's not adding up to me, that's why I'm raising the question.
I didn't think it
I
was
was
40. I
figuring
thought it was 50,000
I was
something.
figuring,
Yeah.
Troy was
It has
just quoting the
been.
wrong
Let
number.
me see.
Because it says 51.5 here.
Yeah, so our default budget's 40,000, In our proposed budget for 2017, we're budgeting 40,000. But now, with this latest invoice, I'm concerned, like, pretty confident that we're gonna go over by $10,000, so.
So why
but
does, yeah,
Why,
So-
why do we have 51,000 then?
It's 40,000 for the ambulance contract and another 11.5 for the debt.
That's true.
That's why it's 51,000.
That's true.
51,000.
That's the bad debt, right? That's a bad debt. So there's 11.5 in bad debt.
So we're eating into the bad debt money is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we still have a problem. But it's calculated in there anyway.
It's in there.
But we're still
It's
gonna have bad
10,000
debt.
even.
That's
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
So that means we're still gonna be over.
But my point is that he's already calculated the 10,000.
We've already
Positive
calculated the
we're gonna be-
10,000.
Yeah, there's no extra money coming out of the bottom. It's already calculated in there as.
And I can't use the, I'll double check, but I know Karen and I checked this a year ago. For the quarterly payments that have the service, we can't use the revolving fund. The revolving fund's strictly set up for the
For the
bad
debt
debt.
only, yeah.
Okay, so your final total was 88.8, right? And you've got other stuff down below here?
And so, let me get back. I'm just estimating that we're, by year end, this is, we've already given $10,000 for the PFOA legal expenses. And I think in addition to that 10, we'll probably spend another 35,000.
have we gotten bills for that yet?
We've been billed on a monthly basis. The last bill was in August. So I think it was around $3,500 for the month of August.
So what makes you think we're gonna hit 35 by the end of the year?
Just, I think, because of the activity that when I say 35, it's, from everything that we've been billed. To date, I believe we've been billed 22,000. So we got about, you apply the retainer to that, we got $12,000 of bills that are due. And so you still got September, October, November, December. And we're gonna have some,
And we signed
We're
an
gonna
agreement
have-
with them that we were only gonna pay them so much this year and the rest next, and
So-
our council had no issue with that.
yeah, I'm just showing this is a possibility that we could pay something towards the PFOA bill.
Alright.
We should have that on our radar, that we wanna, if we can make payments, we should.
Right.
Cause we have no plan right now for 2017, but,
Well,
And- and
we're gonna make a warrant for it, right?
well, that's,
We're having a discussion today, and Troy says, but Steve Perry was all against that. So I said, I don't care what Steve thinks, let's cut it, and we'll discuss it as a board, we'll cut a warrant article, and we'll go forward.
Because if the project's gonna be happening anyway, I don't know what you're gonna, I don't know.
It's not the project per se. The project per se, I think, is okay. What the issues are the other demands that the town has not resolved yet.
Right.
And St. Gobain's does not appear to be, I'll put it to you this way, proactive, and
So wouldn't you have an issue with paying that bill before this year?
wouldn't I have an issue paying the bill?
We just encumber the funds so you have them for.
I believe that we should pay all bills that are due us this year, that are accrued this year.
Well, the only reason I say that is because I am the one that is not in favor of the warrant article. To ask the question of whether we should fund it or not, I think we should fund it. So isn't paying bills before we ask that question a little proactive?
No, if we've got a bill, we should pay it.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Maybe
not
we'll
sure-
have
Maybe
enough-
I don't understand
Maybe we'll
your
have
question.
enough money to pay it all off, and then we can just keep fighting and we won't have to worry about the warrant article.
Maybe. Anyways, so 35,000,
yeah, just, it's,
and you're estimating we'll end up somewhere at current levels around 53?
as things stand today.
Okay. Questions from the board?
I'm good.
Okay. Let's see what else here. Budget updates. Board of Selectmen adjustments, 2017 budget update. There are no files, Troy.
There's supposed to be a file.
There's a budget file, but
Oh. All right, sorry.
you have to go up to the top one.
All right, I'm gonna open this thing 'cause I can't. Okay, so I want to give you an update of what's been going on at the budget committee meetings. So you see under town meeting, I'm just using the summary page.
Excuse me.
So town meeting, when we were reviewing the budget, we discovered that we were still carrying 4 elections, primarily for the moderator and the election staff. So the budget committee, we calculated what the difference was between 4 elections and 1 election, and decreased that line by $2,101. The town clerk proposed budget, as well as the tax collector budget, had the 20-hour part-time position in there, and the budget committee has removed that position. So that's an $8,100 reduction in the town clerk, and $8,100 reduction in tax collection.
Did they say that they wanted to see it on a warrant?
Yes, they did.
They did. There was a lot of discussion about the fact that we were, our proposal was to create this position, to one, help with, the transition of, the staff, our anticipation that the staff will be retiring sometime soon. We wanted to have someone, already trained, available to step up.
The budget.
But with that proposal, we also were
Oh, sorry.
really planning on keeping that part-time position even after the promotions were made, so that we always had a backup, and that we could keep the hours of the town clerk's office open on Thursday nights. They totally supported us being proactive and trying to get some training in place. However, I think they didn't really want to commit to having this 10-hour position continue on indefinitely.
Yeah, that's the read I got.
Yeah.
But I think we tried to, what I heard that we tried to explain was, this transition may be 2 years, could be 3 years, we don't know when it's going to be. So having this part-time and allow us to open the hours, just to get that person experience, is a benefit both to the person that's learning, but also the community. But then after it's done, would those hours stay? And we wouldn't say, no, we're gonna reduce the hours.
Right.
I think the reality of it is, we would have to reduce the hours, I don't think we could maintain those hours, but I think that's what they got hung up on.
Okay.
I guess the question I have is, have we ever gone to warrant for a part-time position? It's my understanding is we don't go to warrant for part-time position.
We shouldn't have to.
Yeah,
I understand the full-time part, because it's always, because as benefits, a whole lot more cost, it's not an at-will, but.
Yeah, traditionally, if you're creating a full-time position with all the benefits and costs that go along with it,
Yeah.
you would ask the citizens if they support the creation of that.
Agree with that, yeah.
Part-time positions, I'm just speaking just in general here. I'm not talking about the town of Litchfield, but just in general. A lot of times, the selectmen have the right to create part-time positions at any time. You have the right to create full-time positions anytime within budget.
I've stated my position numerous times,
What is your position?
that the Board of Selectmen hold the responsibility to create part-time positions, period. And full-time positions, I think we should go to the citizens and put it on a
We're
ballot.
not saying anything different, we're saying
Right.
that. So what's our option here? If the budget committee is gonna continue to go against that, they pull the money out, our only option is deliberate, is to try to put the money back in,
You could do that.
which.
Or,
happened
Or
more
you just
successfully.
shuffle the money
or
next year.
somehow you
find
try
a
to
way
figure
make
out,
it happen.
do
Yeah, I
something
mean, there-
internally to,
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about a lot of money, but that, we're still going against the will of the budget committee, because they still deem it to be something that should go to the voters.
well, there were some comments that encouraged us, even though they, they made these adjustments. There was some statements that were made that, please, we understand the position you're in, and, please try to work towards a plan so that we do have training in place, so that when we have this staff retiring in the near future, we have someone that can step up. So I think what they were hinting at was, look at internally what you can do with your budgets and moving staff around. There's something you can do.
The problem is that if you use what's being proposed, you would be in a situation where you would bring most town organizations to a standstill. So, once somebody leaves, then you wouldn't be able to refill it. Doesn't make any sense. But anyways, that's something the board has to discuss.
Right.
All right, so the next reduction was $3,500. This was to the legal expense. So
When you say legal, we don't have any money in right now for PFOA, right?
that's correct. So they've taken the selectmen's proposed budget of 18.5 and reduced it by $3,500 to a new proposed budget of 15,000.
That's fantastic.
And I think they were looking at 3-year. They were looking back at previous year's expenditures. Personnel administration, that reduction is directly related to whatever payroll taxes was involved in the town clerk, tax collector, part-time position. General government, there's a reduction of $4,875, and that was electricity and unleaded fuel. I think they were planning on spending $2.25 a gallon for unleaded fuel. I think I was carrying it at $2.50. In highway maintenance, there was a reduction of $11,199, and this hit several lines: the overtime line, office supplies or general supplies, diesel fuel, and salt. Solid waste took a reduction for their diesel fuel, $175.
For the fuel reductions, it was mainly around price difference or volume?
It's just price. So, I had budgeted $2.75 a gallon for diesel, and I think they're looking at it coming in about $2.50 a gallon.
Now, there's a discrepancy between the estimated price at the pumps that you can get down here and the delivered price.
Right. There's the pump price, but the town has to pay a delivery fee.
Right.
But we're also exempt from the state and federal excise tax. Which
Correct.
I think is about,
22.4 cents,
yeah, that's,
the state.
I was gonna say, I think it's about 40 cents all in, state and federal. So that's where they're at right now. Now, again, these are not final cuts. They just make adjustments as they review budgets. They still reserve the right to go back to budgets and reduce the bottom line.
Kevin, you got any comments? I know you just got here, but,
I was getting it. We went on the budget from the other night.
yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
No, that was it.
Okay.
Chief almost got an extra officer.
Almost.
There was some discussion about the proposal for the new police officer position, and there was their concern about will the position reduce overtime. The chief explained that he didn't foresee that happening, and then we sort of got into a discussion about if we added 2 full timers, could we start seeing a reduction in overtime just having that general conversation.
So in terms of the warrant articles you and I discussed today, we got to vote on them when? Next week?
I'd like to have you vote on the next Monday night.
Okay, so Chief, we're going to need some details on the new officer you're proposing for that meeting, so we can have some information on that.
We have until the beginning of the year for warrant articles though, right?
We theoretically could
If
go
we
back
have
and-
new ones that come up along the way.
You do.
This is drop dead date. I forget what the drop dead date is. I think it's around, don't quote me, but the 15th of January, but somewhere in that neighborhood. Anything else on this, Troy?
No.
Okay, library trustee adjustments. You've got that down there?
I put that down. I've not updated, but they had sent me an email. Some of the warrant articles were not attached, so I'll get that updated. And I've not updated the library trustees number, but there was a discussion with the board about, I think, the fact that they had their merit increases in the operating budget, and they have since pulled those out.
They put them in a warrant article.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on that? Then if not, then let's go over outstanding items for the budget, which is the other insurance.
Those are there, so nothing's changed on that. Still waiting.
We're
for
still
those-
waiting for the,
for those proposals to come in.
okay,
So what we're waiting for is workers' comp, property liability, health, dental, unemployment compensation.
personnel administration.
And that's being held up due to those, some of those policies.
And Fire Department Capital Reserve Fund warrant article
And I think we were gonna have that discussion
with the chief
with the chief later this evening.
and the fire station, which is a discussion for later this evening as well when the chief gets here.
They're here, everybody's outside, yeah, everybody's just, yeah.
Speak of the devil.
rounding up. They're all here.
So we were just about to start. We're running out of items, chief.
You tell me I'm up?
Yeah, you're,
No rush, but
no rush, but get up there.
All right, well, I apologize for the delay. We were attending to real emergencies. But I want to thank the board for the opportunity to bring a couple of our members forward and have them officially sworn into their capacities. Captain Doug Nickel being sworn in as a deputy fire chief, effective earlier this month. Doug has been with the town and the department for almost 30 years. So it's a real honor to be able to promote him to the deputy chief's position and to be my official right-hand man, which is kind of a job he's been doing since I arrived here 4.5 years ago. And then the second individual we'll be swearing in tonight is firefighter Cody Lacombe. Cody's completed his probation. He has completed his firefighter 1. He's been one of our more active firefighters over the course of the last year, and he's now just about halfway through, because he took his midterm last night for his EMT. So I'll start with Deputy Nichols, if that's okay. I have asked Chief O'Brien to swear them in. I think it's fitting, being that we work so closely together with the police department. So I appreciate the chief doing that. So Deputy, if you'd come forward.
Raise your right hand. I, Douglas Nickel. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as Deputy Fire Chief according to the best of my abilities, agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution and the laws of the state of New Hampshire. Congratulations.
pin his badge on.
We got first aid kit.
Doug.
Firefighter McComb.
I, Cody Lacombe,
I, Cody Lacombe,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and perform all the duties
and perform all the duties
incumbent on me
incumbent on me
as an on-call firefighter,
as an on-call firefighter,
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities,
agreeably to the rules and regulations
agreeably to the rules and regulations
of the Constitution
of the Constitution
and the laws of the state of New Hampshire.
and the laws of the state of New Hampshire. Thank you.
And Cody's dad will be pinning his badge on.
Congratulations.
Good job, bud.
All right, so that concludes that part. Are we still on?
Yep,
Okay.
thank you, chief. Yeah, there's nothing else to cover except fire departments.
Thank you guys for coming. Two deputies will be joining us. Lisa's questions.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is going to be the fire station study. Jonathan Hale, Warren Street Architects, Inc. So, Chief, I'll leave it up to you guys to...
So, we've been working at this, and I think we've come to the conclusion, or we have come to the conclusion that there's some significant issues that need to be addressed with the current fire station. We were here about 6 or 8 weeks ago with a study that Warren Street did, which basically gave the option of a renovation to the tune of about $2 million versus starting over and building a newer building for just slightly more than that. At this point, it's my understanding the board's kind of looking for what direction do we recommend. At this point, based on conversations with both Jonathan and Troy, I think the best course, or my recommendation for a course forward would be to put a warrant forward for architectural engineering and associated fees in order to have a bid package ready to be bid 1 year from now, October, November timeframe next year, with an ultimate goal of actually bidding the project prior to the election, so that we actually have a set of plans, a design, a price, and a contractor all locked in, which I think will eliminate a lot of questions and allow us time to share the plan, get the community's buy-in, and have a set price, not a perceived price or an estimated price. So at that point, I've asked Jonathan to come in to field any questions, and I think he probably has some questions that we need to resolve today in order to give us that number to put forward in March.
And it's your feeling, Chief, that rather than go forward with a request for build, it's better to go forward with a request for engineering? And I'm not saying one way or the other.
I mean, I think trying to push a full project forward, we're fortunate we're going to utilize plans that we've done before that the town's already paid for. However, they are between 10 and 13 years old. So there's been, as Jonathan will explain, some technology changes with HVAC systems and building systems. There's been some changes in the operational side of the fire service that I think we would be remiss if we tried to rush through and just say we're going to use these plans that are that old without doing our due diligence and looking at them, you know, taking a little bit of time to look at them and say, okay, this is what we truly need. I think we've got a lion's share of the work done. We just need to go back over it once and do our due diligence and come up with, you know, and then take the time to actually, you know, be transparent about the whole thing within the community and build the community support, as opposed to just having something that leaves a lot of questions unanswered.
Okay, great. Thank
And
you.
I think John we've talked about an excellent idea that John had involving a video, and I think he'll get into that we can loop
Okay.
in with their cooperation, so.
Just to start, do we have any questions on the feasibility study for the existing station?
We'd gone over that last time. I'm clear on it, unless
Yep.
other members of the board have questions, or Troy, or whatever.
Nope, not fine.
So when the chief called me and said, you know, let's take a look at the new station, there was some question. The previous design was actually done, the schematic was done 3 times. It was fully designed the last time, and I'm talking full construction drawings and a spec, the whole bit. It was permitted. I actually pulled up, there were actually 2 sites that the new station was planned for. One was directly across the street from the town hall and where the cabana is, and the other is over to the left-hand side. And I pulled up those drawings here, and I can share them with you. That's the town hall.
The only one I remember was the one that was over to the
Yeah,
side
I
here.
never remember it.
I don't recollect anything at all out front.
There was
I
some
know there was
discussion
a
about one down by Dara.
Down by Dara
Maybe that's
Park, yes.
Maybe that's the confusion.
There was a set of plans for a substation down.
Yeah, a
closer to the
2-bay,
high school.
right? Was it something like that? A 1-bay, 2-bay?
And by the way, thank you for waiting around tonight. We got into some
And
extracurricular activities.
We are good at Griffin. Everything is under control, and there will be school tomorrow.
Chief, I hate to say this, but there's a lot of kids at home going,
That's why I figured I'd let it
They're all groaning along.
So I take it back, I apologize. The design that is in the full package was on the corner of Albuquerque and Woodhawk Way.
correct. That's down by,
Yeah,
It's a substation.
that was the
that
substation.
I remember.
Yeah.
And then this is the,
Yep.
which that was not actually permitted with the state. The Albuquerque was completely permitted, alteration of terrain, the whole bit. This was not. But the design is done for the most part. There was the layout, the grading plan. It's probably a third done, and I would go back to CMA if that is the location that you were looking for. So, there's the civil component a location that you all need to decide upon before I can get a number to actually finish
Well,
that.
Can I talk about that for a second?
Absolutely.
There's a report somewhere in town, maybe Chief, you know this, or maybe some of the other board members recollect this, that there was gonna be, excuse me, a fire station built on Talent Road that was to the west of the intersection of Talent and Albuquerque. And there's actually, I believe, a couple acres of town property down there. Part of the reason for that was response time. And I think there was a study put together that talked about response times to the southern part of town as well as the northern part of town.
I think we did that in 2008.
I don't know. But all I know is there was that, and what happened last time we got into discussions of new fire stations, there was the whole hue and cry about where the station should be built. And in fact, to my recollection, that's why we ended up considering the corner of Woodhawk Way and Albuquerque, to try and ameliorate some of that. I don't have a problem wherever this goes, I think that's a decision the fire department has to make. And the reason I say that is, and my position is, you have to be able to have a station that for you provides you with the best response time to any part of this town. Or decide how you're going to distribute your forces to make it the best response time. So if this works, I'm fine with it. If you'd rather do the corner of Woodhawk Way and Albuquerque, I'm fine with that as well. But I just want to make sure, from my perspective, that it's really a decision by those knowledgeable in fire department practices and stuff, not me as a selectman, because I can pick a spot and it's not going to be optimal for you guys.
Hasn't the train left for the corner of Woodhawk and Albuquerque because of all the build-outs that have been going on down there? With the fields and so on? Where would you put it? And I think it was also a substation too, so it's not a
So
complete
as
station.
I understand it, and I'm gonna defer to my deputies in the back here who have been here longer than I have.
Your Cheffies?
The two-station concept was just that, a primary station and then a secondary station. And, you know, if we look at, for insurance, ISO or Insurance Service Office recommendations within 3 miles, I mean, the reality is we'd probably be looking at 3 stations in order to have that kind of coverage. And is that realistic? Honestly, no. You know, we can do the same, you know, by relocating the current station more geographically to the center of town. And it's my belief that this area here provides some of the best access, because you can come out of this area and go pretty much any which way to town. We're gaining twice the amount of ability and latitude, if you will, to go in different directions here than we currently have. Moving anywhere further north or south, you're just increasing response times to the opposite side of town. You know, if we're down closer to for the sake of discussion, to Woodhawk or Talent, you still got to come north on Albuquerque to get to the north end of town, or you've got to go out Talent to 3A to get to that side. I don't think that's a bad area, but I firmly believe, based on my experience and looking at, you know, the layout, the unique long and narrow, that being as close to the geographical center makes the most sense, so that you're splitting your distance. And, you know, I haven't actually measured from here to the south and here to the north to say it's half a mile different, but it's got to be pretty darn close.
So I would think, though, that part of this proposal to go forward for engineering is not just engineering to do structural design, but would be engineering to do, here's the location and here's why it's the right location.
Well,
And maybe you already have that, I don't
study
know.
has been done. It was my understanding that study was kind of done, and that's why this was picked with
Okay.
a potential second, but I'm gonna,
Then we just suck that over then.
Dig that back out of the file and
Originally, when ISO did the study, the site that they were looking at was actually the tennis courts are just north of
Right.
here.
Oh, okay.
And then they were also looking at down by Garrett Pond, and, I think there's two of those stations would be right for either north and south end, but we wouldn't have something more in the middle. And I think that's why we came to putting the station here, is because it's only a quarter mile, not even a quarter mile north of here to where the courts are.
And that's fine. I mean, I'm not trying to say where it goes. I'm just, if you feel that we have enough data that substantiates that we put into here makes sense, that's fine.
We had done a study before on the response times from either south end, the middle of town, and the north end, and I think it made out to like a 5-minute or 7-minute response time, depending on the north or south, and it made sense to have it where we're talking about right now.
Okay.
So the couple of other pieces, the chief has mentioned, you know, some practice changes and things, you know, subtle things that they'd like to change in the floor plan. I'd just like to work with them to figure out what that is. If it expands the size of the building, or it can be incorporated into what's already there. I mean, structurally, the building was designed to be a wood frame building, but it was concrete block apparatus base. Electrically,
you know, everything's pretty much the same, but in 13 years, LED lights and those kinds of things are, you know, the way to go. That wasn't incorporated then. And mechanically, this was designed 13 years ago, so I mean, there's a lot of innovation that's happened in that field in terms of, you know, heat pumps and other things that we could look at. I did have a conversation, just to put it in perspective, with a contractor that I'm doing some work with, who is building the Milton station right now. And just to give you a perspective, it's a 4-bay, 9,000 square foot building. The building costs alone, and this was bid a year ago, prior to town meeting, but the building cost alone is $245 a square foot. And they had another $500,000 in site costs. So, you know, it puts it near $3 million. This is a comparable project. I just want to put it in perspective. You know, if you're 2 years out, you probably add another 10 or 15% on top of that, the way materials and labor are going. That's pretty much where we are.
Okay.
You know, being 13 years in as a dream, I'd hate to see it compete with another project that's going to bond vote in town. It just,
Well, that I don't know about. I'm, from the town perspective, I don't think there's anything that we're looking at right now that would compete with it. But that doesn't mean the school's not coming up
yeah,
with something.
this was competing directly.
It was last 3 years.
Yeah,
Every
in a row.
year it was coming with the school, yeah.
Yeah, I think that school
So,
is no longer viable. So, John?
so we're just talking about a fire station. We're not talking about a public safety building or anything like that. It's strictly fire.
I think it needs to be fire with the option of being able to be expanded into a safety complex if it came to that.
And that's, I guess, well, we're looking at those plans, we probably want to make sure we situate it in, with that in mind, right? Because that's something else we're probably going to be fast approaching too.
This building is not designed as a multiple police fire.
Mhm.
That really is a whole different discussion.
Right.
But could it be added on to later on? Is it situated in the site that it could be expanded, so on and so forth?
Well, it could be, but even the schematic for the design previously here, it's tough to add on to something that's designed as a fire station, because you've got admin on one end and you've got fire apparatus on the other.
Right.
So which side do you add on to it?
So,
And-
I would say you'd put it on the admin side, to be honest with you, but they
am I wrong in remembering that there was plans for a dual-purpose building that had both departments in it at one point? I remember the discussion around red plates and blue
I
plates.
know there's talk about it, but I don't
But
think
this
there's
was,
anything that
this was
ever-
discussions around red plates and blue plates, and I remember that, why I remember that clearly, I don't know, but
I can tell you
So if
why.
I could ask the question, what's the
get
major
green, so there's no
difference
question.
between building just a fire station or if it was gonna be a dual complex building? What's the major difference?
The big difference, honestly, is whether or not the police and fire can play together. So can they share spaces, you know, conference spaces, workout spaces, multi-purpose spaces, those kinds of things.
Well, I
Do
think
they
if they
share-
couldn't, it wouldn't be worth doing.
Right. So I mean,
But the trend is to have separate fire and police. That's really the trend out there. Is there economies to having them in the same building? Absolutely.
you say the trend though, I'm seeing all these new public safety buildings popping up left and right, where it seems like they're combining. I agree, common spaces make sense, and I think that's why I remember this conversation, because the conversation was around common comes from common kitchen, and that's where these topics were being brought up with the plates, right?
There's some compounded conversation that has to take place, because with a police department, you have a lot more public coming and going. You have access, you know, you have volunteers. This is an on-call fire station, so you got an inrush of volunteer firefighters that come in, and you know, it's how do you balance that on the site? How do you make that work?
So we've got two choices. We either design something that can be expanded in the future at some point through those plans, or we locate this building in a position that would allow us to expand onto the end of this building. And I'm saying onto the end, maybe it's onto the side, I don't know, but somehow expand on this building.
Yeah, I thought it was, like I said.
So the way this building is laid, as it is in here, the way it's laid out on the property, it would need to be yeah,
I can
it
show
would
you
need to
the-
be shifted
This was
to a
done-
degree in order to allow that, because it's kind of facing
2008.
Albuquerque.
That's the town hall, and that's the fire station. So as you can see, I mean, that's probably the police station, couple of sally ports, an admin. It's gonna double, I mean, you've got impound lots, you've got other things, you've got, I don't know how many cruisers you have and all of that. It'll double the size of the impact of the site. And it really is a different building than what's previously been designed.
Do you know of any, like, safety complexes that have been built in like the last 4 or 5 years?
I thought there was just one done in,
New
when was Ware built?
Do we know the cost of that, roughly?
It's gonna be comparable in cost.
Yeah, you're looking at $6 million probably, 5
You
to
know,
6.
Where's probably 10 years old.
Is it 10 years old? Okay.
It's, believe it or yeah. New Hampton was built 3 years ago, maybe not quite 4 years ago.
I believe Plastow right now is building a new station that was public, was fire and police together, and they're, I believe, renovating the existing building to be the fire department and building a new building in the back for police department. So, separating the uses. I don't know of another station that, maybe you found something.
Town of Bow?
No, I was calculating
Town of Bow
costs.
doing a joint,
Bo
245
is in the
square foot,
process
9,000
of
feet.
building, I believe it's just a fire.
just fire? Okay.
No,
Up on the hill?
yeah, I'm pretty certain it's just and that's been like this, that's been a
Ongoing for,
multi-year-
yeah, it's finally
yeah.
passed, so.
Yeah, it finally passed, but I don't
Okay.
believe it's a
Much
public
reduced
safety
scope,
complex, yeah.
Much reduced scope.
So I mean, it's certainly, I personally am not opposed to a shared facility by any means. I think the relationship, is, as, we saw earlier, is there, now. I think it's pretty safe to say at one point in time that probably would not have worked here, but the relationship currently between police and fire is very good, excellent. So would it work? Yeah, I think it'd work. Do you have a little, yeah, you're gonna have them like with anything. You just buy neutral plates, so you don't have those issues, John.
I wasn't
but it
making this
really-
up. This is a conversation I remember hearing.
Yeah, it really depends upon, and I've worked in 2 communities that have public safety, and it's like anything. It's more individual personalities that create the challenges than policies and procedures. We would need to, as it's currently situated, it really would limit itself to being added onto for a full-scale public safety. Now, can it be quarter turn to make it work? It's something we can certainly look at, but
I think there's a bigger conversation that you all need to have. I mean, there's, the full design completed, done is probably over $100,000 worth of work that is sitting there. I mean, if we said, this is the building that the fire department needs and there's value to reusing the plans, all I've gotta do is hire the civil and the mechanical engineer, do some tweaks, and a very good portion of the effort is already done. But if the need has changed and we're now into a public safety building, then you're
Changes the scope.
starting, I think you're gonna find that you're starting over.
I'm thinking. And my thought is, the decision the board's gonna make is to go with the plans we have and consider that we'd add on to this building somehow, which is another project entirely at some point in the future. Or basically blow the plans up that we already have and start over.
Well,
What's the cost, approximate cost estimate of, if the chief's proposal is to go forward with engineering costs, and design over the course of 2017, and to bring in 2018 forward a finished design and a proposal to the voters. What's the cost of that warrant article that we would have to go forward with in 2017?
If you were asking me
Ballpark,
specifically, we're designing for
what you've
this
got,
corner right here,
what you've got.
and what we've got, you're probably in the ballpark of 40 grand in civil engineering today, 10 grand in mechanical, 5 to redo the electrical lighting, and throw another 10 on that just for me to facilitate and take it through permitting and do all the rest of it. So that puts you at about
65,
60 grand. 60, yeah.
60 grand. And if we were to blow the whole thing up
You're probably
and tell you to go back
ballpark
and,
at 8% of $6 million, so you're, $250,000.
Well, in 2007, all we asked the voters for was $1.9 million. They built it on that lot in 2007. Wow.
But that was just for the fire station.
That is just the fire station, yeah. I'm going back looking for the red blue plate discussion. Because now I'm thinking I'm making things up.
And that was a slightly smaller, that was a 3-bay station.
Yeah, and this building was designed to be 5 apparatus bays, but we only went forward with 3. So it was always thought we'd put 2 on in the future.
Right.
I would do the whole thing up
Mike?
front.
Well, we would need to do 5. I mean, 3, we're not gaining anything. We're still gonna have stuff sitting outside like we do now, so.
Yeah, and you don't.
I think the other thing is the 3 was based upon also a second substation to house.
Correct.
Yeah, that's not double bay like we currently have.
It would be, they're
They're
currently 2
pull-throughs,
bays,
right?
3 bays, 2 deep, drive-through. But that still wouldn't, it's really a
So-
half a bay more than we have right now.
If I remember correctly, it went down to a 3-bay after it failed twice.
right.
Is that?
Possible, you're probably right.
If I remember correctly, that's what happened.
So my proposal to the board would be to go ahead with the existing plans that we have now, update those plans to get through the warrant article that the chief's proposing to go forward with. And then if at any point in the future we have to do an addition, I would say that we do the addition onto this building. So whatever siding you do, you'd have to leave enough space to expand out or the side here.
Well, the biggest issue I saw in the quick look at those plans is that the septic's going out the back and then all the parking is out the back. So it would be easy enough to change that if we needed to extend this building and make some changes, you know what I mean? Parking can always get shifted around.
Well, I think the only thing over there is parking. We've got a tank out here and septic out here.
I'm talking
He's talking about the plans.
the plans for the fire station. The only thing that would impede extending this building at all could possibly be the way the
Parking,
parking
yeah.
is situated.
Yeah, but I'm not seeing that we gotta expand this building another 200 feet.
The way this is
Maybe you're
situated
thinking
now,
differently than
parking is actually between the building and Liberty Way. So to the back is the access to the back of the building from Liberty Way. And it looks like probably a retention pond, right here.
The other option here is you have a set of plans that represent probably 99% of what you need for a building. You have a site schematic that any site contractor could do a takeoff. I'm not here to ask you for $65,000. I'm saying you could price this and put it on the warrant article without spending any money, figure out what it's gonna cost, and then put it to the people. Do you wanna fund the whole thing, design and construction at that? I'm not saying it's the warrant article in 17, maybe it's 18. So the one conversation that I did have with the chief was that all the municipalities that I'm working with now in terms of getting anything to pass, I'm telling my clients, it's more about selling it to the community and them understanding the need than it is about the pretty picture. I mean, you can spend $65,000 and we put another set of drawings on the shelf. It's developing the dialogue with the community so that they understand why you need this. I mean,
I agree with you 100%. That's
and maybe
beyond spot on why we had the engineering study done in the existing station. Because the existing station, while we can all stand there and say that it isn't adequate for what we have or adequate for the future, I can't prove that. And that's why we needed that study done.
So I've asked this question before and I'll ask it again. We have municipal impact fees that we're continuing to turn back to the builders because we're not using it. Why can't we use that towards a project that would be done on this property?
I thought we all agreed that we potentially could do that.
So
And
how
the
much money
question,
do we have in there, Troy?
Not the fire, but the municipal one.
Municipal.
I don't know. About 40,000 the last time I saw it. 850.
So,
what I would suggest is that you would
See.
put a warrant article forward, and I think I would tend to agree with the chief. First off, you have to have a strong sell to the community, and you also have to have your ducks in a row. And you can't go into this at the last moment trying to tell people, hey, we need a station, vote for this. It's not gonna work. So I am in agreement with the chief that going forward with an engineering proposal for 2017 makes the best sense. And then use that time to refine the numbers, come up with all of the answers to the questions, and then to use that to, over the course of the whole year, sell that to the citizens of town so that they understand the need for this. We now have in our possession a very good engineering understanding of what what the old station is all about. And when this study gets complete, we'll have a very good understanding as to what the new station would be all about. And I think you can put the two together and come up with a very good informational program as to why this is important.
If I may, a conversation I had with the chief was, we have in the past developed a video. I believe Litchfield has a community TV station that rolls, and
You're on it right now.
there we go. The idea is to create a little video, a 10-minute segment where you interview the board, the selectmen, you can interview the fire department, you can interview community members, you can walk through and show the existing building, you can show the proposed, and make the pitch to the community, so that when you do get to town meeting, it's old news. It's not you're debating it on the floor, it's they understand the need, and it's more like, all right, are we gonna vote?
I agree.
So an effort like that is in the ballpark of about 20 grand. You're gonna hire a videographer, you're gonna have somebody choreograph it,
We've got people that can,
that can do it.
Yeah. and the chief is able to talk with a microphone. And
I just had a quick question for you, chief. Now, based off those plans, do you feel that that's gonna be adequate for 10, 15 years down the road?
Well, and that's why we looked at the 5 bays as opposed to the 3 to fit what we have, and fully expecting that with replacements, they're not gonna get smaller, they're gonna get a little bigger. Yeah, I think that's gonna get us well into the future. With, as I read the plans and understood the plans, there was some design, allowances made for an addition in the event of, additional office space or bunk rooms some point down the road. The plans were designed to facilitate that off what would be the back side of the building. Jonathan referred to some of the, operational changes. And one of the things we discussed today is this building was designed as the current station has gear around the perimeter walls and so forth. Where now the recommendation is gear is housed in a room where the lighting is controlled as to limit the UV exposure and so forth. So again, a little bit of a change in scope design, but we're not talking a major change or reconfiguration of the building. It's just, looking at the plan and reconfiguring some of the space.
Okay.
From a size standpoint, the 2 additional bays really is all that I foresee it growing in overall square footage. So,
Would the administrative side be a 2-story or a single-story?
This is single story
On slab.
on site.
Is there any reason you wouldn't have a 2-story?
Elevator? Just the extra cost of the
yeah,
elevator.
that adding that second story is 100,000.
Two stairs, an elevator. It's a tough sell to argue that this is not a public building and you have to provide public access. 2 stairs and elevator is $125,000-$150,000 right there, just.
But I can see Chief Nichols there looking wantingly at one of those poles you can slide down.
I gotta tell
I
you,
was just thinking, when the future bunk area was discussed, I was thinking that that could be housed up there, that's all.
it would still require an
It
elevator.
would still require. the
Nashville went
elevator.
through that with their West Hollow Street
Okay.
station, and they didn't succeed. They put in an elevator.
You've answered my question.
We
So,
just renovated the Laconia Fire Station, and we put an elevator in that building, so.
Poles are out though, the slides are in. I saw one in the station was built less than a year ago down in Charleston, South Carolina, and it has a slide. And,
No more pole?
they had a pole too. Poles are not, they're kind of frowned upon, but the slide looked like it was a pretty cool thing. And trust me, I would have tried it if I had the opportunity.
Do you get to
but-
hold on to the pole while you're going around?
No, it's just, yeah.
It's a kiddie slide.
So yes, and I did show Deputy Nichols the picture that I took of it, so that's what I think he was looking for, or smiling.
okay.
I think going back to the question about the video, though, we still have some funds that the board allocated towards this project, if I recall.
Yes.
Looking to Troy, to move forward with some of this is certainly not enough to obviously cover the fees that Jonathan was, as referred to earlier, and will itemize or finalize for us within the next week or two. But there is some funding if we choose to move forward with that.
So, I guess what I'm at the point is, I would consider making a motion that we would adopt the chief's recommendation to go forward with an engineering study or an engineering enhancement of existing plans, that the station would be located here, and we would use the existing plans as the basis of design. And that what we would do is, as quickly as possible, consider what available impact fees may be utilized and encumber those fees if need be to apply towards any warrant article that would come forward to defray that costs. Does that would that make sense to you guys?
Absolutely.
So I will make that motion.
Second.
I doubt I can repeat it,
It's been recorded.
but,
Plus you recorded it.
yeah, I know. But the motion would be that we go forward with a request for engineering warrant, that we use the existing plans, that the station would be located as originally proposed here next to the town hall, and that we would encumber any impact fees that are available that could help us defray the cost for this engineering. All that with the intention of going forward in 2018 with a design to the citizens.
Yeah, I seconded it already.
Discussion?
I would just ask that as we plan that building, we do take in consideration the fact that we're close by now. So connecting the two buildings together electronically or, data would be a need that would resolve some issues we have today, and a secure room in that building for the computer gear and stuff like that. I mean, it's an opportunity to get a closet, that's what's
Yeah,
in
I would
there.
ask you, John, to work with the chief
Yeah.
and see if there's any needs for, I think John's actually absolutely right. There may be needs for electronic closet or something in there to handle.
So far, we have it in the middle of a room somewhere, and we need to fix that.
Right.
Okay.
No, and again, that's a perfect example of,
Yeah.
13 years ago and today that we need to look at, so.
Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0-1. So, I hope that gives everything. The other thing I would suggest, Chief, based upon the video commentary, would be that we already now start to do two things. One, that we use the engineering report that we already have available to us showing the state of the existing station, and that we already take and go down there and do a videography. I love that word. Or should it be videography? Videography of the existing station to show some of the problems with it, so that we can use that to sell this request for funding warrant article. I think that makes the best sense. Okay.
Thank you.
On that, I think we're good. The other thing is, let me go, oh, here we go. We got two other things, which is the fire station warrant, which we've covered now. And the last thing is the fire department capital reserve fund, which I think we're all set from an engineering perspective. It's just discussion.
Good night.
Thank you very much for waiting around. We'll try not to have any fires in town. Thank you. So, Chief, we discussed in the past at one of our prior meetings having a capital reserve fund that would try and cover some of the potentially big expenses that you could encounter going forward, such as the pump rebuilds and stuff like that.
Right.
I believe Troy has drafted a warrant and he's trying to put it up on the board now.
So we had a discussion, based on your comment when we were reviewing your budget, about your concern, if, when we do these annual tests with the fire equipment, if, just for example, if we lost a pump and had to rebuild the pump, replace it, that cost could be anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000, if I heard correctly. So we had a discussion about creating a warrant article to have an expendable trust fund to make repairs to the existing equipment. And then, there's no draft article here, there was some discussion about creating a capital reserve fund so we could start saving some money for the future replacement of fire equipment. I don't recommend that you mix the two. I think you should keep them separate. And I think they were just looking for your input if you do support that
I
kind
am
of
very
stuff.
comfortable with the article as Troy has it written, for equipment repair. Our fleet is getting older. We are running into, every now and again, we're running into issues. We do know, and why don't you join me up here? You're the handle the maintenance stuff. We've been kind of forewarned that the pump on the tanker at some point is going to need, some significant work, and potentially a rebuild. Right?
Yes.
And the ballpark price tag we've got is between $20,000 and $30,000 to rebuild that pump. Now, that truck is 1990?
The tanker.
The tanker.
It's 92.
92. So at some point, we need to look at, the value of the truck and what we're going to put into it. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as, a car where you can, Google Kelly Blue Book or NADA and get the value and say, well, it's going to exceed 50% of the value. It's not worth fixing because it's very hard to put a value on, a piece of apparatus like that. We can value what it'd get us on trade-in, but what we would get on trade-in for that truck, it's worth more to us to Band-Aid or fix it and keep it going for a couple more years. Because quite candidly, a very basic fire engine, pumping water, not a tanker or a ladder, but a basic engine is $500,000 currently. Yes, they can be purchased cheaper than that on a commercial cab without, things that make it unique to the community and suit the needs of the community. But the reality is, a truck built and designed for what we truly would need, similar to what we have now, is $500,000. If not even a little more than that. So our fleet is to go back to the ISO ratings and so forth, they give us credit for 20 years and under. After that, they consider them to be reserve. Is that the only, determination on when to replace apparatus? No, absolutely not. And the savings of the difference certainly doesn't make it an easy decision to replace apparatus for the small savings that, each homeowner would get by having a newer $500,000 piece of equipment or a less than 20-year-old piece of equipment. But we do get to a point where technology changes actually outpace the mechanical capabilities of the apparatus. Engine 2 is, help me, because I didn't bring it. And 96. So that's at its 20 years at this point. So we're going to very quickly need to replace more than one piece of apparatus in less than a 5-year period of time. And even if we lease purchase over 5 years, now we're going to have two payments. So I think it would be very wise to consider a capital reserve, start funding a capital reserve fund for the replacement of apparatus as well as this warrant article for repair.
Okay.
I mean, I guess the only discussion would be,
How much do we put
how
in?
much can you really afford to save every year towards the future cost of purchasing new versus if the plan is going to be, when that day comes, instead of saving a little bit of money every year, we do a straight financing package where you do a lease purchase for 8 years and you finance it over 8 years.
So two schools of thought. Clearly the best, it's like anything, cash is king.
Oh, yeah.
Most, if not all, of the manufacturers will offer a discount for payment in full up front, and they range anywhere from 30 to 50, 60, depending on the cost of the truck, fairly significant amount. Now, on a $500,000 truck is a $50,000 or $40,000 savings for paying cash worth it to save up over the years? That's a decision
It's a spreadsheet.
that, you folks need to make.
Why is that though? Because you can get financing through third party. So I would
because
still be
you're-
paying cash for the truck. I would get the financing through, like we lease purchased Jack's truck through
Yeah, I know there's several communities that are, and I'd have to get the particulars, because it's been quite a while since,
Okay.
I've been involved at that point in the purchase, but they do offer basically cash payment, payment on COD saves you, money, so. Yeah, if the town were to go out and lease it, and pay it off, could we secure the same kind of benefit? I would have to check. But we're also, an 8-year lease, we're gonna have 2 vehicles at some point in that 8 years that we're gonna have double payments. So, and at what point do you stagger them? So,
Okay. So your suggestion is that we go forward with a capital reserve fund for the future purchase of fire equipment.
apparatus.
Okay.
See, originally, my thought was if we could combine the two and make it ongoing, so that you could use it to fix the trucks that you needed, but in the same time be saving for the future. So then it would be one fund. But I believe you said that that would be difficult.
No, it wouldn't be difficult. I guess
Well,
you
it's
just set
it's
yourself
diffi-
up. You got 2 different actions that you're trying to accomplish. You could have one fund that would do that, but as far as
I
getting
can't see
voters
how
to
you can
support
have-
it, they may question.
I can't see how you can have one fund, because one fund by definition is for capital item purchases. Replacing a pump or repacking a pump on a vehicle
Is typically done through an expendable trust.
is not a capital item. So I'm not convinced that you can use a capital reserve fund for both purposes. And
I
hence-
recommended it just to try to combine them to
and I
make
think
it
it's-
simpler.
I think on the surface, because that was my original thought, but after discussing it with Troy, it's kind of too, and I guess we'd have to get a
It'd be a legal
legal
question,
opinion on it.
We'd have to talk to council, and I don't have a problem.
I
if we
agree,
can do
selling,
it.
from a selling it standpoint would be much, the only drawback to it would be is if, when you buy that new piece of apparatus, you completely drain it, and then before you put any funding back into it, you have a major failure of something else, and there's no funds in there.
And the other problem would be, sorry to interrupt, if you had one combined fund, I don't know if the citizens would want the selectmen to be agents to expend to buy a new fire engine. If you had a capital reserve fund, you're gonna save money for fire engine one day, they wouldn't appoint the selectmen as agents to expend. You'd go to town meeting and get approval. Whereas repairs, having the selectmen agents to expend is
I think we discussed that,
acceptable.
yeah.
The other thing we might wanna consider in this whole theory is that if we started that fund now, you're probably gonna need a truck before there'd be enough money in that
Oh,
fund.
yeah, there's no question about
So
that.
then the issue would be is people may question, well, why did we establish this fund if we don't have enough money in there and we
Well,
still
you-
have to raise money anyway?
So you can do two things. You can take what you have and then
Apply it towards it.
Put a deposit.
bond the rest, or you take what you have, and if it's worthwhile, based on the spreadsheet that the chairman's gonna work on, you go for a one-year appropriation to make up the difference to buy the truck outright.
Right.
Now, depending on how many years you've put money away, that may not be a big bullet to bite, or it may be year two and, you know, you've got 50 put in an account and you got 450 you need to come up with.
So to establish this fund, what I'd suggest, Troy, is that we, first off, talk to council about the possibility of the combined accounts. See what council thinks on it. Second thing I think we ought to do is look at, what do you wanna call it, unreserved fund balance? And see what unreserved fund balance could be applied against that.
Yeah, for this one here, I think I was proposing that we use the to establish this fund at $50,000 and that we use the unassigned fund balance to do the initial funding.
Right, but I'm talking the capital as well.
I know you're talking.
Yeah. And I don't know what this, part of my questioning of the accountants when they came in was the issue of unreserved or undesignated fund balance and what that was for the town. And my impression of that discussion was that we're close to where we should be. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure we have that option.
I think we're in that, I think we're in that right now where, for the past couple of years, we have warrant articles where we use the unassigned fund balance, but then at year end, when we close our books, we sort of push back what we asked, the citizens to use the year prior. So we're actually gaining, we have not lost. And I think the auditors are, they're positive about that we're not going backwards.
You're right, though, there is a recommended number range that
we should
the town
have.
be in.
So, and that also goes towards bonding. So if you ever ended up bonding a fire truck.
And that's what Doug was just mentioning, is at one point, the town did that and basically just had a perpetual payment, because when one was paid off, the next one started and so forth, and,
Right.
and I mean, that's an option too, but at some point, you just, where do you save an interest, and at what point do, the last several years, borrowing money's been relatively inexpensive from a percentage rate standpoint. At some point, it's, rates are gonna go up, and then does it really become, cost effective?
Okay, so I think we're all set. So we'll go forward with two warrant articles, one for capital, and, well, depending on what town council says.
Yeah.
But we gotta vote these for next week, so we need to have answers on designated fund balance, how we're gonna fund these, and whether we go forward with two or one.
Okay.
Any other questions on the fire station stuff?
The only thing, because I hate to put the chief on the spot here, but do you want to give the board an update on your Litchfield or septic system, or?
We can.
You're here, it might be a good time. They're unaware of that you're having some problems.
So we had an issue last winter with a little bit of a backup. Did some preliminary with coordination with Kevin. Did some research into it. Kind of left it that there was a potential because of the lack of snow and the winter we had, that the Litchfield might have had some freezing issues. Haven't had an issue since then till 3 weeks ago. Again, had just a little bit of an issue. And ironically, it was within a week of having the septic tank pumped, our annual pumping. So we have had Ham Septic come back, take a look at it. At this point, their recommendation is to dig up the outlet and look at it. So we're going to move forward with that. We've coordinated with Jack to dig up a small section of the parking lot to get to the outlet. And Ham will come back and look at it, and if need be, put a camera into the piping and see what if the issues are and so forth, so.
Well, that's right on the side, right? As we drive over, isn't it?
Yeah, it's under the parking lot.
Under the parking lot.
Is it possible we got a cracked tank where we're getting groundwater coming in?
It's only when we use it, like when we actively use it, the water starts coming up around the cover.
In the parking lot?
We have a regular,
Right at the
like,
edge of the
sewer
grass.
cover.
Oh, yeah.
It's a sewer cover. So it bubbles up around that and then runs down the parking lot.
Yeah, but never mind, I won't say it. I'm just gonna,
So, I mean, we there's not a whole lot to update you on, because we haven't dug the outlet and so forth to see, but there's certainly a potential there for.
And Jack actually just told me yesterday that he has a camera with 200 feet of
he
line on
does,
it.
he does.
So we might actually, instead of digging up the parking lot, he may, if Ham can use it, just run the camera.
Right through.
Yeah.
Are the
Put
catch basin-
Jack down in the tank and,
The catch basins, those aren't connected, right? The ones inside the bay?
No, that catch basins drain off to the back of the station, at least as Jack's explained it to me, to the swale out behind the tanks,
Okay.
propane tanks. This is the sanitary sewer. It's, septic tank, and then the leach field's built underneath the parking lot. But it's,
Because that's one way to
say
get
18 years old.
parking lot paved, huh?
What's that?
Leach field?
Oh, it's older than that. It's
Yeah.
over 30 years
So-
old, probably. I mean, I've been there 30 years and I didn't see it built, so. I've been there a lot longer.
Well,
Okay.
the old leach fields last a long time.
Yeah.
But hopefully, right now, you're thinking that it's gonna be a service line, tank, distribution box issue. Nothing,
That's the,
no,
keep our fingers
no
crossed.
concern about a leach field yet.
That's our, that's probably the easy
Yeah.
fix, or the less expensive fix is like
Right.
something like that. I mean, if the leach field is in failure, then that's obviously a much bigger
Bigger
issue
issue.
and won't become a time-sensitive issue. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
okay. Thank you.
On that,
On that crappy situation.
I wasn't gonna say that, but.
So for next Monday, well, for some point in the immediate near future, not necessarily next Monday, but we're gonna need an estimate on that engineering warrant article, so. And we're gonna need for Monday to vote encumbrance on the impact fees.
For this? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Other business, administrator report.
Just want to say, Steve, your question about municipal impact fees.
Yep.
If this is correct,
$2,500.
yeah, if that's,
Because we use the impact fees to
that
do this
is,
engineering study.
I'll double check with Karen, but this is her spreadsheet, and
Well, I know
Looks like.
in last week's bills,
we are
issued
returning.
checks for returns. So that's,
Well, there could be some left over, yeah.
well, I have a big problem with that.
Yeah.
So, we need to use it. We need to find a way to use it.
All right. I can never get back to the friggin'. Okay, just a couple things. One, Pinnachuck East Utilities. You know that we've met with them and we've asked our assessing, contractor assessors to sit down and work, see if we could sort of negotiate sort of an agreement on their assessed value. And those meetings, as you heard, have occurred. However, because nothing was resolved, Pinnachuck did have to file an appeal with Hillsborough Superior Court prior to, I believe, September 1st, so that's why you see the filing here on August the 31st. And we've just received that. Received a notice that Eversource Energy has filed a tax appeal with New Hampshire Board of Tax and Land Appeal. They filed that on 8/26. Also, we talked about that I'll be attending a meeting tomorrow with some school officials to discuss the polling setup. And we talked about the union grievance hearing this Wednesday.
Anything else? Okay. Selectmen reports. John, anything?
Just met rec commission last week. They're planning the Winterfest. Talked about the budget. There's some concerns still with their budget. They're supposed to be reaching out to Troy around concerns around the property maintenance stuff around for the winter, and then the field maintenance because of the new fields. Other than that, that's it.
Steve?
There was a planning board meeting a couple weeks ago. Nothing really to talk about. There's another one tomorrow night.
I did see that the development down off Page Road has started. They're at least logging now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of logging that's going on, and I'm guessing they'll start excavating shortly.
Good guess.
And how many units are going in down there again?
It's gonna be
73.
46 houses in the area that you're talking about. And then close to the Pagewood Oval is 42 townhouses.
Is it total?
Townhouses.
42?
That's 42, multifamily.
Well, that's
Okay.
pretty good.
Kevin?
Well, I think you touched base and sounded like you guys were talking about budget when I came in, so
Yeah.
the budget come this Thursday again. So
Okay. And from my perspective, really not a lot going on.
That's because you've been away.
Yeah, right. No items were removed from consent. There's no request for other business. Is there anything else going on that people want, other than the fact that the next meeting of the board is going to be October 24th, which is next week, Monday?
We actually have a meeting on Wednesday.
And we also have a meeting Wednesday, the 19th, which will be a public meeting to hear the grievance from the police department. Meeting on the 24th will be the regular time, 6 PM. The meeting on the
19th is this.
on the 19th will be at 5:30 for members of the board to meet with council
This Wednesday.
in a non-public session or a non-meeting meeting. And then at 6 o'clock, we will then go into the grievance hearing. Is there a motion?
I was gonna say, do we wanna ask Kevin his availability at the polls?
the election in
Yep.
November, I'll be there. I'll be
All
there
day?
most of the day. Yeah. I already
Okay.
put it in. I already took it off from work, so.
Sounds good.
All day? You sign all day?
Yeah, I'll be there most of the day. I wouldn't say all day, but most of the day.
Oh, come on.
Okay. And we'll follow up with Brent, find out what Brent's up to. Hearing nothing else, we'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yep.
Abstain? I can't, how'd you vote, John?
I said yeah.
To adjourn? Okay, motion carries 3-1.
I'm not crazy like you two.